Okay, we're live. Welcome to another Nerd Soccer podcast. Good morning. This is Greg Gloria, aka Social Greg, on Twitter for the Nerd Soccer Media Network. Today, I am pleased to talk with Cheryl Robinson, startup entrepreneur, author, and contributor to a new column we call Professor C's Kick-Ass Hacks in Entrepreneurship. So anyway, good morning, Cheryl, again, and thanks for joining us here on Nerd Soccer Live from New York.
Good morning, Greg. How are you?
Hey, how's the weather out there? Muggy still?
Yes, and rainy again. I feel like every time we do this, it rains in New York. So
yeah, I don't think it could be connected to global warming, but anyway. Just kidding. Anyway, I'm really excited about this week because we're talking about focus. And, the last time we spoke, we discussed how to bounce forward, as you say, from any kind of situation that happens during your entrepreneurial life, right? So today we discuss how to focus now, maybe on bouncing forward as an entrepreneur. And can you share with the audience exactly your personal story on the background on this article?
Sure. So as an entrepreneur, in my article, I say I have ADHD because as an entrepreneur, you're excited about everything. Everything is an opportunity, is this great possibility, it's going to be the next big thing. And I found I was getting excited too much, and I was not focusing on what I really wanted to do. So friends would come to me with ideas, with projects. I would meet people at different networking events. We just start talking. And it's like, oh my God, this is it. This is the one. And then you start working on it and it would fizzle. Then the same thing for the next one, where what I really wanted to do, I want to be a New York Times bestselling author. In order to do that, you have to write. And I wasn't writing because I was so darn excited about everyone else's projects. So I found that the 80-20 energy rule, it really wheeled me in. It helped me focus. And that's the whole point, where it's important to focus 80% of your time on what you really want to do, what's important. Then take that other 20% and apply it to different projects or go on vacation, do something else, but make sure that the 80% is on what you really want to do.
Oh, that's interesting. So, yeah, I think it's interesting that you boiled it down to this 80-20. You hear it all the time in different contexts, right? But this is an interesting context that you use to actually use 80-20 in focus. So every article you put out these 3 kick-ass entrepreneurial hacks, as you call it, which is really kind of cool how you say that. And so your first hack was really stop. You talked about the 80-20 rule a little bit more, so maybe you want to go a little bit more in depth of the 80-20 and how it applied to you in your context.
So for me, at one point during my first year of being an entrepreneur, I think I mentioned I had 2 LLCs. I was teaching, I was consulting, and I was in a doctorate program. And so with all of that together, I was working on 8 different projects.
Wow.
That is not humanly possible to do, because without giving 1 or 2 all of your attention, all 8 are just going to be mediocre, instead of just focusing on 1 or 2 and really building them up and then moving on to the other 6. So what I do to help me, and there's a lot of apps out there for organization and tasks and all that, reminders. I still like old school pen and paper where I can actually cross things off. So I have a whole Post-it note system that's different colors, different sizes. And I put weekly goals, monthly goals, long-term goals, all of that, personal goals, business goals. And I write it out. I have it spread out on my desk. Maybe for the next one, I could talk about my Post-it note system and take a picture of it.
I think that's another article.
Yep. But that, when I started doing that, it really helped me focus on what projects I want to do first. And when I started looking at 80-20, I said, whoa, like projects 6, 7, and 8, they're not serving what I really want to do. And they're pulling away from the 80-20. So instead of focusing the 80% on my writing or the doctorate program or one of the conferences I'm working on, now I'm dedicating maybe 10%. And 10% on what you really want to do, you're never going to get it done. So, yeah.
I wanted to ask you, when I was reading the article, there was a question that kind of came up in my mind was, how did you find pulling away from those ones that you knew weren't in your 80, but at the same time, it might have been with other people. You might be working with other people. I mean, was it pretty easy to pull away from those, or it was still difficult even to kind of discuss that with the potential partners or people that you're collaborating with?
Yeah, it was difficult, but for me, like, so for 2 of the projects were with good friends. So I really had to say to them, I want to help you. And if you have questions or need advice, I'll be there for you. Like, cause that answering a quick text or an email, half an hour phone conversation, that doesn't take too much time. So I said to them, in this moment, I need to put this on the back burner. And it was okay. Again, they're good friends. They understand, and they're both entrepreneurs as well. But it was difficult because, again, being the ADHD entrepreneur, you're still like, but that could be the next big thing. And if I don't work on it, I'll never know. But I had to say to myself, it's not over. It's just not now. So that helped me. And when we get together, we still talk about it. We still generate ideas, but it's not 100% focused.
Yeah, you use the acronym FOMO, which is the fear of missing out, right? As part of that kind of that struggle or that tension in your mind of not letting go of that project, right?
And I think FOMO affects more people than people realize, because it goes into the studies with social media, how the younger generations, they feel FOMO because they see what people are supposedly doing on social media. And as an entrepreneur, I'm not too concerned about the parties my friends are going to. I'm concerned about the projects they're working on. And then you say to yourself, oh my God, I got to step my game up. Why are they ahead of me? And I'm not, I'm at a different level. So that for me is where the FOMO kicks in. But again, you have to realize that you're going to be missing out on something so much greater if you spread yourself too thin. Than devoting your attention to 1 or 2 really good projects or ideas that you really want to develop and see them unfold.
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, thank you. That's great. So let's move on to the next hack, which you have is stop using the word busy. So why do you dislike that word busy?
I hate it. And what am I looking for? I used to use that as an excuse myself. And I just find it is the weakest excuse anyone can use, because in reality, you're never really that busy. Like, I love when people say, oh, I'm too busy, but I see you posting on social media every 10 minutes. You're really not that busy if you have that time. And I think it's just been a cultural custom now to say that. And when people say that they're busy, it makes them feel, or they think they sound important. And I've been reading a lot of articles on the word busy and how to stop using it. And I've really cut back. So when people ask, oh, you must be so busy, you're always working on different projects. What I like to say now is, well, I'm dedicating my time to making this project work. And to me, busy is pushing the other person off, making them sound like they're not important enough for you. And I don't like that. I don't want that energy around me. So if someone says, hey, what are you doing? I always like to follow up, not saying like, oh, I'm too busy this week. What I say is, you know, I have a couple things going on, but let's touch base this day. I give them a couple different options so it doesn't feel like I'm pushing them off. And I also feel when you say busy, in your mind, subconsciously, your mind goes into overdrive and feels way overwhelmed. And then you procrastinate and do nothing. So by eliminating the word busy, I find that socially and mentally, I'm much more clear.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. And that helps support the 80-20 rule, right? Because then you're taking all of that stuff that's kind of noise in your life, I call it,
right.
and then kind of combing it away, right? So that's a wonderful explanation. No, thank you for that. That was another great part of the article I liked. So let's move on to the next one. The next hack isn't only about focus, but it's energy. I felt when I was reading it. So you say that always keep your projects front and center. So what's the lesson there?
And again, I struggle because in the past I would use the word busy. It would make me not feel overwhelmed, not want to do anything, then you procrastinate. So by keeping it focused, when I see my Post-it notes, that holds me accountable. And for me, that's keeping it focused, centered. When I want to go on Facebook, or if I want to hang out with friends, those Post-it notes, I'm like, whoa, what's really important in this moment? And in this moment, it's getting this project out and going. So, or writing articles, like that has to get done. Focus on it. It's easier to tell other people too. I don't have the time right now to dedicate to your project because you're just focused. Like you just got to keep the end goal in sight.
Right.
Yeah. Did that explain it a little?
Yeah, that makes sense. No, that makes sense. Sorry about that. And then your last hack. Sorry, I was kind of going off tangent here. When resistance pays a visit, understand where it comes from. That's an interesting one that made me really reflect. Can you talk more about that?
Sure. So, have you ever read the book The War of Art?
No. What? Tell me.
It's a quick read from Stephen Pressfield. It is amazing. And for me, reading that book, it felt like it was written for me because he describes resistance. He doesn't like to use the word procrastination, but it's when you do procrastinate, you're resisting to tap into your creativity, to tap into what you really want to do, but there's reasons why. And once you start to realize, is it you're afraid of success? Are you afraid of failing? Do you think you're going to look ridiculous or it's not a good idea? You have to understand that. And he says, just go through the feelings, but then let them go and move on. And so many people just don't even start because they're resisting. They're resisting what's coming to them for numerous, different reasons. But once you do understand it, you're able to address it, then you can let it go, and then you can move on and start. That's starting is the most important part.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. That's I'm Buddhist, so it's very Buddhist in nature, actually, of actually understanding the resistance and letting go of it, and but also honoring it in a certain way. Right. Because it is part of you that you have to understand where it comes from. Yeah. So that's and it's very liberating, as you pointed out. Yeah. Very liberating to understand that.
For anyone that's struggling with starting or finishing something that they started a long time ago, The War of Art is a phenomenal book.
Wow, that's great. That's great. So anyway, let's talk about your advice now as you go through a lot of Cheryl's articles. She not only gives you some of these really kind of nuggets of hacks, which is really kind of her realizations, I feel, when I read the article, but now she also gives you some advice. So can you go over the 3 steps of advice you have to kind of focus your entrepreneurial energy, Cheryl?
Greg, can you tell me what those 3 steps
Yeah,
are?
no, I'll go there. No. It's okay. I got it. No, I'm a bad host. I need to lead you into it a little bit more. So, so you said about clearing, basically clearing, lay out your overall vision, right?
Yeah.
And I think you talked earlier about these Post-it notes, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that goes into pivoting too. Like everyone pivots along, and laying out the clear vision. Like I had this epiphany maybe 6 months ago that it really came to focus for me. I want to write. And that's what you have to focus on. Like in this moment, what do you really want to do? And as you said, noise, right? Get rid of the noise, get out of your head. And I like vision boards as well. So take the picture, post it somewhere where you could see it daily, or write down what you want to do, but just have that focus. And it doesn't have to be forever, but what is it in the moment that you really want to go for? So I'm huge on vision boards, and I have vision boards on my phone. So whenever I feel that I'm getting sidetracked or if I'm procrastinating, I just go to my phone and I look at that saying, no, this is what you really want. This is what you promised to yourself. So I use that as accountability.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, maybe one article you could actually talk about is some of the tools you use online to help you with this type of stuff that you're talking about. Actually, that'd be a great article.
Yeah.
And the next one you talk about is learn how to say no.
Yeah. Which I'm still learning. I've become way better at it. And I always like to tell people their idea is great, because it is. Who's to say that someone's idea is stupid? I mean, I saw one of my friends had a little package and it said fairy snot. It was fairy snot and it was confetti. Like that was someone's idea, and they're making a lot of money selling packets of confetti that say fairy snot on it. So I like to tell people your idea is great. Go for it. Currently, I have to focus on other projects. So that, everyone takes no as negative. So I try and steer it in a positive way. But it's still hard, especially when friends come to you, because you want to help your friends. But the more you can say no, focus on what you really want to do, you're gonna blossom. It's gonna happen. And then you can move on to help other people.
No, that's wonderful, actually. It's great advice, actually. So, and the last one, you really say, really commit to your goal is what you talk about, your last step.
And no one is going to be as excited about your idea than you. So if you can't commit to it, it's going to be very hard to have other people commit to it. And again, it all comes down to accountability. As an entrepreneur, you have to be aggressive. You have to go after it, because no one else is going to do it for you. And staying committed, again, I just go back to the accountability part. If you really want it to happen, hold yourself accountable. Make a promise to yourself. I actually wrote out a contract for myself when I started my own LLC. And I put in there how many hours a week I would dedicate, what I would do, and I signed it, because that was the only way. I just didn't want to start the LLC and then just have it go to the wayside. So if you have to, draft a contract up for yourself, because you are an employee of what you're doing. And
yeah, that's a great point you just brought up, Cheryl. Sorry to interrupt you, because when you're working as an employee in a company, no matter how much you think that you're actually driving the boat, people are actually telling you what to do.
Yep.
As an entrepreneur, you're the one who tells you what to do, right? So,
right.
That is so wonderful. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. I was just sorry to cut you off. I was thinking about that.
And I forget which author said it. He's famous. It'll come to me. Maybe in the next one I could just reference back to this. But he said, sure, the difference between a professional writer and an amateur writer is the professional writer gets up every morning, sits down from 8 to 5 and writes. The amateur writer writes when they feel like writing. So I apply that to entrepreneurship as well, because you have to, the difference between a real startup and a fake startup is the real startup, the CEO shows up every single day, puts in the work. The fake, and I don't know if fake's the right word, startup, they only work when they feel like working. So it's really that contract to myself has held me accountable as well.
Wow, that's wonderful. No, that's so true. Actually being true to your goals is really what you're saying, is that not only acknowledging what the 80% is, but actually being true to it, right? So that's great. Well, anyway, thank you, Cheryl. Thanks for your time, as always. Exciting things coming over the horizon for you. We can't talk about yet, but we'll hopefully get a chance to do that. But thank you for all your great columns in our startup publication. I really appreciate that. And so we're going to put. Oh yeah, no worries. So how can listeners get a hold of you?
Yes.
And ask you questions about these kick-ass hacks that you're providing us?
I love to answer emails or tweets. So you can find me at Professor CR on Twitter, or you could check out my website at crobinson.co. No.com.co.
Oh, cool. Oh, yeah. Cool. Well, thank you again. That was Cheryl Robinson, everyone, the founder, author, and entrepreneur who's writing articles on her kick-ass hacks. Really is kind of chronicling and giving you the learnings of her first year as an entrepreneur. So anyway, thanks for joining us, everyone. This is Greg Glory, aka Social Greg on Twitter from the Nerd Software Media Network, where we believe in agile tech, startups, design, and you. So thanks for joining us, everyone, and be careful out there. Thanks again, Cheryl.
Thanks, Greg.